In the mid-17th century, the 13 British colonies along the North American coast looked like ordinary settlements. The British Crown imposed taxes, controlled trade, and treated the colonies merely as a source of raw materials. The Stamp Act, the Tea Act, small taxes in London's eyes, sparked outrage across the ocean. People in the colonies no longer saw themselves as British, but as Americans. That identity lit the fire of independence. In 1773, colonists in Boston dumped British tea into the harbor. The Boston Tea Party was a dramatic act of defiance. 2 years later, clashes broke out. And in 1776, in Philadelphia, representatives took a bold step. They signed the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal, it proclaimed. Under George Washington's leadership, the colonies fought and eventually defeated the mighty British Empire. By 1783, America was recognized as an independent nation. It was still small, fragile, and surrounded by global empires. But Americans carried a powerful dream: liberty and opportunity. This was only the beginning. In the decades after independence, America grew rapidly. Millions of immigrants from Europe arrived, chasing freedom and land. This new energy fueled the young nation. By the early 1800s, a powerful idea emerged: manifest destiny. Many Americans believed God had destined them to control the entire continent. They pushed westward, building farms, towns, and railroads. Native peoples were tragically displaced and forced onto reservations. By mid-century, the United States stretched from the Atlantic to the Pacific. The Industrial Revolution transformed America even further. Steam engines, railroads, factories. By the 1860s, the U.S. was a global agricultural and industrial powerhouse. But one great division threatened everything: slavery. The South depended on enslaved African labor in its cotton fields. The North relied on free labor and industry. The conflict exploded into the American Civil War. From 1861 to 1865, more than 600,000 lives were lost. President Abraham Lincoln abolished slavery, and the Union was preserved. It was a turning point. America emerged stronger, unified, and committed, at least in principle, to freedom. After the Civil War, America's growth accelerated. Railroads spanned the continent. Giants of industry rose: Andrew Carnegie in steel, John D. Rockefeller in oil. Electricity, the telephone, and mass production reshaped society. By the end of the 1800s, the United States was not only rich, but also ambitious abroad. In 1898, America fought Spain. The war lasted just a few months, but had enormous consequences. The U.S. gained Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. Cuba became independent, but under American influence. For the first time, America was not just a continental nation. It was a global power. When World War I broke out in 1914, America stayed neutral. President Woodrow Wilson wanted peace. But by 1917, German submarines had sunk American ships, and the Allies were desperate. America entered the war. In only a year, American troops, weapons, and supplies tipped the balance. By 1918, the Allies had won. Europe lay in ruins, but the United States was stronger than ever. Then came the Great Depression of 1929. Banks collapsed, unemployment soared. Yet Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal and massive government projects began to rebuild the nation. Everything changed again in 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. America entered World War II. Factories roared to life, producing tanks, planes, and ships around the clock. By 1945, Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan had been defeated. Europe and Asia were devastated. But America? It had the world's strongest economy, the largest military, and the atomic bomb. When the war ended, only two great powers remained, the United States and the Soviet Union. Their rivalry became the Cold War. America organized NATO and launched the Marshall Plan, pouring billions into rebuilding Europe. This not only saved allies, but secured America's influence. The 1950s and 60s brought a technological showdown. The Soviets launched the first satellite. But in 1969, America sent Apollo 11 to the moon. Neil Armstrong's step was also a step for American dominance. Meanwhile, American culture spread worldwide. Hollywood movies, rock and roll, Coca-Cola, jeans. U.S. influence wasn't just military, it was cultural. From Korea to Vietnam, America fought wars to contain communism. Victories were mixed, but the global contest continued. Finally, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The Cold War ended. The United States stood as the world's only superpower. The 1990s and 2000s saw America leading the digital revolution. Silicon Valley produced Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook. The dollar became the world's reserve currency. American military bases stretched across the globe. The 1990s and 2000s saw America leading the digital revolution. Silicon Valley produced Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook. The dollar became the world's reserve currency. American military bases stretched across the globe. But challenges grew. The rise of China, the return of Russia, wars in the Middle East, and the attacks of 9/11 tested America's strength. Today, one question remains. Is America still the undisputed superpower, or are we witnessing the rise of a new one?